I'll just put recording in progress. Yeah. So I'm a clinical nutritionist. I work as a nutritionist since 2009, and I also work at the university, the Polytechnic University of Leiria, that is a little bit north from Santarém, from Rio Maior. And we will talk today about nutrition during pregnancy and postpartum. Starting when we talk about nutrition during pregnancy and postpartum, we always need to make to go a little bit before. We need to go to the moment before the pregnancy starts. Even though it's not the main theme of the class, I'll just like to highlight some specific aspects. Is that when a woman gets pregnant, the nutritional status that she has is really important for the outcomes of the pregnancy and for even the mother's health as well. So before pregnancy needs to be already prepared the nutritional part. It's not just after pregnancy starts. And the guidelines tell us that at least 2 to 3 months before women should start making sure that the nutritional status is optimal to conceive. So usually there are worldwide, as a consensus, 3 main nutrients that are fundamental to be on the right levels before pregnancy. We're talking about folate, that we usually talk about the synthetic compound that is folic acid. You heard about that for sure. Iodine and iron. These are nutrients that are more that can have more risks if they are low. So there are in different countries even public politics to make sure that these nutrients are not on deficit in pregnant women. For instance, in Portugal, either folic acid or iodine have guidelines for supplementation since the moment that the woman decides that she wants to get pregnant. So it should be supplemented. Of course, can be some situations that it cannot happen because of some health condition, and women are followed by a doctor to make the blood tests. But in Portugal, we have guidelines, for instance, in terms of folic acid. It was performed studies some years ago that showed that the prevalence of iodine levels were quite low for what it should in childbearing age women. So they decided to advise on supplementation between 150 to 200 micrograms of iodine per day in pregnant women. For instance, this is in Portugal. Portuguese recommendations that are up since November 2013. And that's the guideline for us. Other countries, they can use other kind of strategies. For instance, I don't know about, you are all from Poland, right? So I don't know about Poland, but some countries that have ionized salt, so they have salt that has iodine already mixed. So since everybody eats salt, it's an easy way to make sure that all women will get at least some levels of iodine. For instance, like in America, they with folic acid they supplement cereals because most of the population eats breakfast cereals, even the less healthy ones like with sugar or whatever. They add folic acid to make sure that everybody will, and specifically women, will eat this nutrient that is fortified in these cereals. In Portugal, there is no law about that, but if you look for most cereals from the main brands, they are, most of them, fortified with nutrients like folic acid or like iron as well. And that's a way to make sure that the intake in most of the population is better than it could be. So we're talking about nutrients that usually they are in deficit, and it's important to make sure they are there before pregnancy. But there is one excess, nutritional excess, that exists during pregnancy. That is often common before pregnancy in general. What do you think? There is that that can impact more the pregnancy itself? What do you think?
That's from this free.
Yeah, no, that's for this week. From general nutritional intake and then energy intake as well. What that can have more impact in pregnancy itself. Yeah, specifically pre-pregnancy, if the woman is diabetic, for instance, it will imply specific care of that woman during pregnancy, of course. But in terms of prevalence, it's not so serious as the one I wanted to mention. There is the excess of energy intake that leads to overweight and obesity. If you look for statistics, like worldwide, we have like 43% of adults with overweight and 16 living with obesity worldwide. And if you look for specifically childbearing age women, for instance, if you look for United States, you have like 31%, like 1/3 of women that can actually get pregnant, they have obesity. And it has serious consequences in the outcomes and the consequences and the morbidities that can happen during pregnancy. For instance, gestational diabetes in women that have a BMI over 35, so class 2 obesity, they have 5 to 6-fold more chances of developing gestational diabetes compared to normal weight women at the moment that they got pregnant. So this is outrageous. So this is like increase of probability of having the consequence compared with normal weight women. So if you have a woman that has a BMI over 35, she has 5.55 times more chances of having gestational diabetes during pregnancy compared to a woman that was with a normal weight when she got pregnant. So it's quite a lot of an increase in probability. For instance, high blood pressure and preeclampsia. If it's the BMI over 35, 3.4 times more chances of getting high blood pressure and preeclampsia during pregnancy. A need for an unelective C-section, talking about 3 times more chances to need if a C-section if they have a BMI over 40, or 2 times more chances if it's a BMI over 35. Preterm birth, also consequences for the fetus eventually. Preterm birth, talking about BMI over 39.4, 1.5 chances higher, and over 40, twice the chance of having a preterm birth under 33 weeks. And then we also have consequences for the child itself, which is important, of course, for the mother. In this graph, we can see different BMIs at the moment of conception. So when the woman gets pregnant, we have different BMIs. And then here, in these lines, we have for 3 different stages. I would say, let me try to remind myself. I think it's early childhood, it's from 0 to 5 years old. And then mid-childhood, it's from 5 to 10 years old. And then the late childhood is from 10 until I would say 15 or 17 or 18. And you will have here the odds ratio, the risk odds ratio, the odds ratio for this child to be with overweight or obesity based on the BMI of the mother when she gets pregnant, compared to a reference. Yeah, so the one, it's the reference that it's a BMI of between 20 to 22.5. This is like the reference, odds ratio 1. And then they are comparing the risk to this BMI. So for instance, if you have a BMI 35 to 37.5, the risk for your child to have overweight or obesity by the age, between the age like the born until 5, it's like more than 2 times more, like 3 times more, compared to the child of this woman with a BMI of 20 to 22.5 when she got pregnant. Or if you go here to BMI over 40, the chances are like a little bit higher. And if you go to mid-childhood, so children like 8 years old, 9 years old, you will have the chances, the probability is like over 5. So 2 children, one born from a mother 5 years ago or 7 years ago, born from a mother that was with a non-BMI, or born from a mother with a BMI over 40, the chance that that child will have obesity or overweight is 5 times higher. So it's a huge impact, not just on the mother, like we saw before, but also, so this is crazy, right? That's what he said. Can you say what you were commenting? Po polsku może też. Rozumiem prawdę.
Że to przykre dziecko jest skazane na porażkę.
Skazane na porażkę? Nie rozumiem. Przepraszam. Po angielsku może. Nadać się.
It's scary that the child is he has no choice. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, of course, these studies, they try to adjust for other variables that are not just like the movie environment, because of course there are things that can also influence this data. For instance, the diet that they have at home. Parents already have obesity, or it's a mother, so maybe it's connected to the lifestyle, and that child will grow up in that house, so will be submitted to the same lifestyle, right? So they try to adjust for that somehow with the statistical analysis, but it's always that influence possible there. But for sure, there is a connection by the environment in the womb. Even other things, like for instance, studies shows that salt intake, for instance, salt intake during pregnancy influences the risk of hypertension in adulthood of this child that was in the womb during the pregnancy, for instance. So there is some kind of like imprints of the nutritional habits of the mother that will affect somehow in the future the child. Sorry, please.
No.
You were the last. Oh, gosh, you.
No, it's Tosha.
Tosha. You are Tosha.
Yes. I was thinking that even if a child is not born with an obesity, the mother is the same one, it doesn't matter because when they're not going to change their eating habits, this kid is going to have overweight or obesity either way. Because
yeah, like I said, that's why these studies they try to adjust for that problem. They try in the models, they try to see if there are correlations between other variables to then use them as confounders and reduce the chances of the data to be affected by that statistically speaking. So, getting now to nutrition during pregnancy. During pregnancy, this is from the same study, but the analysis is the impact of gestational weight gain. So, from the moment that the woman gets pregnant, the weight that she gains during pregnancy, how it affects the chances of their child to be with overweight or obesity in the future. And as we can see, when we are increasing too much weight compared to the references, the chances also increase. But if you compare to the previous graph, in terms of odds ratio, what looks like has more impact? The weight that the woman has before getting pregnant, or the weight that she gains during pregnancy? Before, which you were aware of that?
we learned
Yes. Oh, okay. Because it's something that a lot of times I think most people, even professionals or women, are not aware of that. They just think, okay, now I'm pregnant, I cannot gain too much weight. True. I mean, it's important also, but they don't care a lot of times about the pre-pregnancy weight. That's why I'd like to point it out. There's also here something I skipped, but these are the prevalence of overweight and obesity. These bars here with different colors are the prevalence of overweight and obesity of children from women with this BMI. So you can see that, for instance, a woman that has a child, the children of women with a BMI 20 to 22.5, when they are like 15 years old, the prevalence of overweight and obesity is like maybe 15%. But the children of women with a BMI over 40 are 60% they are overweight. They have overweight or obesity. So as you can see, it's in terms of prevalence, it's like huge. If you look here, considering the gestational weight gain, you also see different numbers. Like, for instance, a weight gain that is before the limit that is considered as the max, the prevalence of overweight is like 20%, and women that they have two standard deviations more weight gain than they should, they will have 33% of prevalence of overweight in their children 15 years old. So, as conclusion, we observe that it's even more important the weight pre-pregnancy than the weight than the weight gain during pregnancy. Both of them are important, of course, and there is estimated that 21.7 to 41.7 of childhood overweight and obesity prevalence can be attributed to maternal overweight and obesity. So a big variance of the weight gain of the prevalence of obesity and overweight in children can be attributed specifically to maternal weight gain during pregnancy, which is quite impactant. Okay, so now energy needs during pregnancy. Let's talk about that. When I talk about nutrition, energy intake is one of the main concerns. It's true that pregnancy has a huge energy cost. This is an estimate of the total energy cost of pregnancy, like 76.5 thousand kcals for whole pregnancy. It's a lot of energy that you need to during that period to perform all these changes that you have during pregnancy. So usually the main techniques or the main estimates that are done for pregnancy, they are based on making an estimate of the energy requirements for the woman itself. For instance, if you have an adolescent or an adult, you use some specific equation to estimate their energy intake, energy needs, and then you sum the extra energy that she is needing in the different trimesters. So in the first trimester, these are the guidelines from the Institute of Medicine. They say that you don't need to add anything. So in the first trimester, the energy the woman needs is quite close to the energy she needed before. But from the second trimester, it's already here an increase a little bit over between 300 and 400 kcals more than the usual. So we should increase those 300 to 400 kcals during the second trimester. And then in the third trimester, these will increase around the 500 kcals that are the demands for the increase in total energy expenditure and also for the increase in total energy deposition for the accumulation of fat that is needed to have them as storage for breastfeeding and for eventual situations during pregnancy. Because if you think about 15,000 years ago, for instance, before the Neolithic time, the Neolithic times, the woman will not know when she will get food. It was unpredictable. So if she could store some fat, it would be great, because a period that she will have less access to food, she will have some storage. So we still work like that. You never know, it will be an earthquake and we'll be locked here and you're pregnant. So our body still works like that. But you cannot give him too much. If you give him too much, he will store also too much, and that can be problematic. So EFSA, sure.
It was like 160 to 180.
No, it's plus. This is the estimate for the increase in total energy expenditure, and this is the estimate of total energy deposition. So this plus this, it will be 340 or 340, I believe. Can calculate. So this one just let me go a little bit before. Do you know any equation to estimate energy in adults or in adolescents? No? So, because this is another thing, but there is multiple equations that you can use, like the formula that you can use to calculate how much energy somebody needs. Use their height, their weight, their age, the gender, in this case, woman. And then it gives you, like, imagine 2000 kcals. That woman is 2000 kcals. And then you just sum up these numbers here. Okay? So you make a calculation that is personalized for that woman, for her characteristics. If she's lighter, it's less. If she's taller, it's more.
And then you have to add
Yes, you add this.
physical activity or
Yeah, in that formula, you also add physical activity.
Okay.
Correct. That's correct. So EFSA has a different guideline, but it's quite close. EFSA says that in the first trimester, you should add to those needs just 70 kcals instead of 0. They say 70, quite close. Then second trimester, 260. And then third trimester, 500. But if you will compare, it's not so different from the guidelines from the Institute of Medicine. It's just European and American guidelines, but they are quite similar. Yeah.
I was thinking from I have an answer number, so
Oh yeah, the reference. Yes. This is from the European Food Safety Authority, and these ones are from IOM, the Institute of Medicine, the North American Institute of Medicine. These ones. So when we look at the total weight gain during pregnancy, this is in pounds. This is in pounds. This is an American source that is in pounds. You'll have increase for multiple reasons, like you have classed about this for sure. Like you increase like 2 kilograms of blood, for instance, in total, or like the uterus increased almost 1 kilo, or like the breasts increased half a kilo. So there's a lot of weight gain that is not connected to the fetus itself. The fetus will have like 3 kilos, 3.5 kilos. So it's not the main thing that will make you gain weight during pregnancy. And the guidelines for weight gain, they depend on your pre-pregnancy, in your moment of conception weight, the beginning of pregnancy weight. So if you are underweight, the margin of weight gain, it's higher than if you already start with obesity, where the margin is quite lower. If you start with obesity, the guidelines for weight gain will be 5 to 9 kilos. But if you start with underweight, you can go until 18 kilos based on these old guidelines that needs to be maybe updated, but they are not yet. And then from the last trimesters, the weight gain rates are also different. If you have obesity, the weight gain rate will be mean 200 grams per week from the second trimester. But if you are normal weight or underweight, it's like a mean of half a kilo per week from the second. Because of, like we talked before, the woman with obesity, she already has fat storages. There is even a lot of situations in literature and some studies that should suggest that sometimes the weight gain in women with obesity can be almost not really needed. If there is a monitoring of the development of the baby and it's growing up well and gaining weight like it should and everything, the woman doesn't really need to gain weight to have better outcomes during pregnancy. Actually, I didn't put all slides because we're starting a little bit late. I turned some down, and actually one was about that to show exactly that. Some study that they check the 5 different outcomes in pregnancy based on the weight gain, and you see that when women gain really few weight, if they have obesity already, it doesn't give you a negative impact.
Okay.
Probably because they have already inside them what they need for the good outcomes of pregnancy. In those ones specifically, that was low weight gain during pregnancy or preterm birth, or
Still, it's better to gain weight during pregnancy than not before.
yeah, that's why the guidelines stated these guidelines are evidence-based guidelines. It's just not a decision from people that join in a room. They need to have scientific studies to support their guidelines. So as you can see, during the time of pregnancy, the weight gain during the first trimester, it's really, it is a guideline. It's not mean levels, it's guideline from NIH. And these guidelines are for different BMIs. Different colors have different BMIs. So here is lower BMIs, here it's higher BMIs. So as you can see, lower weight gains for higher BMIs and higher weight gains for lower BMIs. And here you can see that until 12 weeks, the weight gain guidelines goes from virtually zero, because it's in pounds. So we're talking about 200 grams for the first 12 weeks, like 200 grams, until like 2 kilos, 2 kilograms. So really few, almost nothing. You can even not gain almost any weight during the first 12 weeks. And then from the final of first trimester, should be like a consistent increase, slow by slow, at that rate, like 200 grams per week or 400 grams per week, depending on your weight in the beginning. That will be consistent for you when you get to the end, be inside the recommended range. Of course, it will depend also on women to women. Some women have a lot of symptoms like vomiting, nausea, that even sometimes make them lose weight in the beginning. Some women have it all along pregnancy, depends a lot. Some they feel a lot of they are super hungry more in the end of pregnancy, or some you need to also personalize somehow and need to have a individualized approach, of course, to manage this thing. So it's for two. How you say that? Like
Not true.
you also say that in Poland, like
Yes,
dwu.
yes,
Yes, jak dwu, yeah. Yes, jak dwu. Massive. So eat for two is something that in a lot of countries we realize with time talking to different people from the countries, they say that. But the difference is that it's not eating for two, like two women, it's like eating for two, like for this and this small baby that is like inside, so even smaller. So it's not really eating for twice as much, but you need to be sure that you are giving the right nutrients. And just to close this aspect about weight gain, a lot of times, if too much weight gain during pregnancy, that weight gain does not disappear. And that's a big problem, a big concern. This study evaluated more than 2,000 women, and the risk of being with obesity in women that gained too much weight during pregnancy was 39% greater than in women that didn't gain too much weight during pregnancy. As a nutritionist, I don't know, maybe I made like 10,000 appointments in my life, and I cannot count how many times I had a woman that said, until I got pregnant the first time, I was slimming. And then I gained too much weight, and I never could get back to where I was. And I'm fighting with weight since then. It's so common that I listen to that so many times. We have there in the laptop, I have a colleague nutritionist as well. Probably she happened the same with her. That somebody said, "Oh, my first pregnancy, I gained so much weight, I never could get back from that weight gain." And statistics shows that gaining too much weight during pregnancy, it's a huge risk for long-term obesity and midlife obesity. For instance, just 20% of women return to their pre-pregnancy weight within the first 3 months postpartum. This is 20%, 1 in each 5. And I feel that now we have a huge bias because you have like social media that just show you the successful cases, and you have like a bias that everybody can, just you cannot. This can be also frustrating for women.
But it's about all the women with normal weight and underweight.
Yeah. To the pre-pregnancy weight. So compare the weight you gain that you had before pregnancy, if you could get back to that. Then at 6 months, 50% of women retain at least around 4 to 5 kilos more than they had before, and 25, 9 kilos. So every 4 women will retain 9 kilos more than they had before they got pregnant. 9 kilos. Imagine yourself with 9 kilos more right now.
Okay.
That's not the, that's not the objective of this class. Yeah. And you have the 800 plus, right? Or the 500 plus in Poland, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
It's not motivating me though.
so between 24 to 27% of women retain at least 4.5 kilos 1 year after postpartum. 1 year, but 1 year postpartum. And I like a lot this sentence, that is, late postpartum period is the preconception period for the next pregnancy. Think about that. You had the first child, and then you have 9 kilos more than you had before. Now, eventually, you retain that weight, and then you will have another kid in 2 years. And now you have 9 kilos more. So you were to do BMI. Now you are 3 levels of BMI higher, and you are overweight now. And you will start your pregnancy already with the overweight BMI, mostly because this weight were there still. So the postpartum period should be that preconception period of preparation for the next pregnancy. It ends up to do not be. So something that are also important guidelines is that during pregnancy, the diet should be balanced in terms of macronutrients, also micronutrients, because it takes you to the optimal perinatal outcomes. And these diets that are nowadays really common, like that restricts macronutrients, the guidelines so far are that they should be avoided in pregnant women. Not that we have a lot of research on that, but because of common sense and biological plausibility. For instance, Atkins diet, paleo diet, ketogenic diet, that are really restrictive diets in some nutrients, they have the potential to harm the pregnancy outcomes. So, of course, we don't have really actual data like randomized controlled trials, is because they are not possible ethically to be made. I cannot just put a woman just having 10% of carbs during her pregnancy and 90% or 80% of fat during pregnancy, not having a lot of different, not having foods at all during pregnancy. I cannot do that because ethically it will never be accepted for a trial. There's no justification for that. So what we know is based just in observational studies with really small samples, or sometimes clinical cases that a woman by herself, she decided to do that. Nowadays, people decide to do anything. They do the most weird things you can imagine with their diets and their selves and even the baby's diets. So you have these kind of case reports, but biologically speaking, in terms of plausibility, probability of happening good or bad things, don't support these kind of options on the pregnant women you work with. Try to have a macronutrient balanced diet, because if you take carbs at all, or if you reduce a lot some specific macronutrient, it's really probable that you will also affect the micronutrients that are connected to the foods that have that nutrient. So it's just a concern. Okay, getting to protein. Protein guidelines for yeah, question.
Fasting. How is it like if the woman eats and feels good and the tests are great and everything's great, should she change it or?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the same conservative approach that I mentioned here, in my practical work, I have the same approach and conservative approach, advising to do not do it. I do not have like scientific or strong arguments to give you to support what I'm advising, but theoretically speaking, in terms, for instance, the glucose levels are important, the variations are some important aspect that we see that has impact on the baby, for instance. And long fastings can lead to quite variations on the glucose levels, and it can have a negative impact theoretically. So once again, we don't have really data that can prove you, because we don't have randomized controlled trials that tested that, and probably not have.
Yeah.
But I would say that the conservative approach in this case is the better one to have. Of course, there is the autonomy of the woman, and if she really wants to do it, it's like an ethical discussion. It's her autonomy. It's you are advising, but you are not the owner of your client, right? She is a person that has autonomy to decide what she wants. The minimum you can do is to have a multidisciplinary team and the monitoring really well, the doctor monitoring. Yeah, it's the only thing that I would accept, like to say, okay, if you really want and it's your decision and I cannot do anything, I cannot convince you otherwise. Well, at least let's work in a team that makes sure that we'll have the correct monitoring. That's what I would say. So, getting to protein. This is the guidelines for women between 18 and 59 years old. We don't really have between 18 and 49 or 45. And it's 0.83 grams per kilo. This is like, I would say, is like the minimum to make sure that most women have what they need. Then you need to also think about physical activity. In your case, the ones that work with you, they probably are being physically active, hopefully. So, this can be more. This is just a reference more for like sedentary individuals, can be more like starting in 1.2 grams per kilo. But for pregnancy, the recommendations are to take the basic needs that a woman has, considering this value or more if she's physically active, and then add a specific amount for pregnancy itself. First trimester, almost nothing. The needs are almost the same. The actual size of the embryo is like nothing, and the protein needs variation is really small. There's no need for more. Then 9 grams in second trimester. 9 grams already something, and then 28 grams in third trimester. And that's a challenge. For women that are pregnant in this third trimester, I had a lot of situations with appointments that it was hard to get close to this number of increase. 28 grams already, like depends on the foods they like, of course. If you have like a vegetarian woman, for instance, it's even harder, for instance, to reach the 28 grams extra of protein. So it's challenging. Here you have the guidelines for the nutrients. You have any question? Yeah, go ahead.
Those those are per kilogram of the body.
No. Per day.
Okay.
Total amount per day. No, per kilo would be impossible. This is per kilo. This is per kilo. And this is per day. Per day. Yeah. Extra from the needs that you calculated based on a reference per kilo. That can be this one or other one for physical active women. Like from the ACSM or ESSM, for instance.
And is this for all the pregnancy, like the first 0.83?
This because it works like the energy, like before. It's like you calculate for that specific woman for her characteristics, her exercise, physical activity, everything, and then you add up this, just that. So if you have a woman that makes a lot of strength training, has more muscle mass than usual, she will maybe need, imagine 1.6 grams per kilo. Imagine that. So you calculate 1.6 grams times her weight, and then in the third trimester plus 28, or the second trimester plus 9.
Is there a maximum level of protein for pregnant women?
That's a great question. Also, again, we don't know. And we also don't know for not pregnant women. But what I usually do is like for most people, and mostly in pregnancy, that maybe like extreme sports will not be performed, mostly in late periods, for instance. I would say that there is no advantages in having more than 2 grams per kilo in most situations. So if there's no advantages, even if you don't know if there is disadvantages in having more than that, I would say it's why you give more if there is no advantage. You don't know then if there is disadvantage. Yeah, it depends on when you have physical active women,
Yeah.
The guidelines will go from 1.2 to 2, 1.2 to 2, depends what they do. Of course, there is exceptions, like nowadays there are guidelines for bodybuilders that goes up to 3.3.
Yeah.
But, like I said, like something a little bit more extreme, I'm not so sure if it makes sense, and I will disadvise again. I will not advise that, I don't know if this advice exists. I will not advise that to a client, for sure. For common sense, so basic sense. Here are guidelines for other nutrients. I would like to highlight some specific aspects. For instance, carbs, 45 to 60% that are the guidelines for general population are the ones that apply for pregnant women. I'm highlighting these because I'll just give you an example, really short. I used to teach in a master of exercise and health, and I teach nutrition, exercise and health. And I made like some kind of pre-test in the first class to know, because students are from different fields. They are from exercise field, they are physiotherapists, sometimes nurses, they are nutritionists. And I make some tests, and one question is, which percentage is recommended of carbs in daily energy intake for common people, like in the general community? And I put like 20%, 30%, 50%, 80%. And most people answer 20 or 30. They're in the master. They have a bachelor, sometimes in fields that are connected to health or exercise. That's scary. Because now most people think that carbs are bad, carbs should not be eaten. So they will say 20 or 30. No, guidelines are around 50%. And this is EFSA, but if you go to WHO, if you go to ATP, if you go to IOM, if you go to even specific national guidelines from different countries, they are all going around these. Why? Because around these numbers, it's connected to a better total diet quality, and it's also connected to longevity and less mortality, and less situations like cancer risk, cardiovascular risk. So carbs can be better than worse choices inside carbs. Like I can have fruits and legumes and vegetables, prunes. I can have whole grain cereals, or I can have the cakes and sugar and the cookies. Of course, they're all carbs. It's different, but in general, eating carbs is not bad just per se, just because it's carbs. Okay, and this is an important message. An important message is that a nutrient is different from general population to women. It's the DHA. DHA is the docosahexaenoic acid. It's an omega-3. Maybe you heard about omega-3, not about the docosahexaenoic acid. Omega-3 are different kinds of omega-3, like ELA, EPA, and the DHA is specific, exists in fish. So that's why the guidelines of fish intake during pregnancy are stated in a lot of countries as something that should be present because of this DHA. That is a good source. That depends also on the fish, because some fish they have some have more, some have less. Fat fish usually have more than low fat fish, or blue fish have more than white fish. But there is also fish that have a lot of contaminants, like heavy metals, like mercury, for instance, methyl mercury. So the guidelines also states that you should avoid some specific fish that are, I would say the thumb rule that is easier for everyone in different countries is just to choose always fish that they are smaller. It's the best rule. Because the heavy metals, they accumulate in the liver, in the muscles of the animal through time. And big fish that usually are carnivores, they eat other fish, they are bioaccumulating during years, they live a long time. Usually big fish live way more than small fish, or they are already older, they live more, so they bioaccumulated more. So if you eat smaller fish, it's better. Like don't eat, unfortunately, eat like some kind of shark, sometimes like a salmon, they're deep, or the ropa, they are big. The tunas is curious. For instance, tuna, if you have those steaks that are some big tunas that you see in the market, they're expensive, they have a lot of mercury. If you buy 10 canned tuna, since they are the cheap ones, the ones nobody wants, they are small ones, or the ones that throw away, they have really few, for instance. And everybody thinks that tuna can Cantona is worse than the other one. But in pregnancy, maybe it's not in terms of the contaminants. In terms of DHA, it is. The one in the can has less than the other one.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard to manage. But I would say that 3 times a week to have fish, 3 to 4 times, and have avoid those big species, the max once a week, those big fish. It will be in Portugal we eat a lot like robalo, dourada, and you can choose the small ones or the big ones. The small ones are even cheaper actually.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's a good option. Another thing, water. See the difference. Water increases here 300 milliliters per day in pregnancy. 200 milliliters. Pass from 2 liters to 2.3 liters as a mean recommendation. So, because the water needs hydration, like you saw before, you are increasing amniotic liquid, you are increasing blood level, total blood in your body. You need liquids to compensate for that. Okay, so then you get to some micronutrients, some vitamins. And these vitamins, as you can see, there is some differences. For instance, folic acid, folates that we talked before. 330 for normal population, 600 for pregnancy. It doubles almost the needs. Sometimes it's not so easy to get to the 600. I can show you here some example of different foods that are rich in folate. And as you can see, for you to have 600 micrograms per day is not so easy, even with the ones that are more rich. Even you have those fortified cereals that I was talking to you about, for 100 grams, I have 250 usually as a mean. So you need to have 200 grams of cereals per day to reach almost the level, and 200 is 800 calories at least. Depends, then can be 800 to 1,000 calories. Peak health, just for that. So it's not so easy. And like watercress has a lot, but 100 grams of watercress in Portuguese is agrião, in Polish, I'm not sure. Maybe voda something. Some vegetable that grows up, voda, I think it's voda something. They have voda in the word. It's watercress. No. Okay. Asparagus is in Polish is the same, right?
Yes.
It's kind of asparagus, the same word. Is also, but it's not easy to. It's easier to get it through asparagus than through watercress because asparagus you can have 100 grams easily, and this one is like full bowl, like to have 100 grams because they're really light.
I have a question about folic acid. Yes. It said that it's B9, and I heard that it's B11 too. So is it true or is it only B9?
B11 too.
B11 vitamin. I heard
B11?
Yeah, I heard that it's B11 and B9.
No, B11. No, just to go back here, like these vitamins that are here, vitamins always have like a name. They have also like a chemical name, and sometimes they are groups, and they also have some other name. For instance, this one thiamine is vitamin B1, or riboflavin is vitamin B2, or vitamin B6 is also pyridoxine, or vitamin A is also retinol, retinoic acid, and retinol. So they have different names, and some numbers do not exist. Like there is B1, B2, B3, but there is no B4. Why there is no B4? Because when they were discovering vitamins, they discovered one that they thought was actually a vitamin before, but then years after, they realized that that is not a vitamin, because a vitamin needs to be essential for the body. For us to, you need to need it to live, to be a vitamin. And they found out that one before, you can look online how it was called, I don't remember now, some years, a long time ago, that before lost the vitamin, it's not a vitamin anymore, so they took it out. So that's why it goes from 3 to 5. And then you also do not have the 11 because of the same reason. So I would say it doesn't make sense that. But you can look online, you will find it in Wikipedia, will tell you the names of all the vitamins that exist. So another guidelines about minerals, and you can study it carefully because a lot of information. Oh, I forgot to say something. Here, for instance, with folates, what happens is that since it's so hard to get it, in most countries, there is supplementation. Women are taking folic acid. Why folic acid? Because in terms, it's more stable and it's even in terms of bioavailability, that chemical form of folate, is folic acid, is better absorbed and everything. So it's used in pills. In Portugal, more commonly is Folicil, but there is other formulas, and it's quite cheap. It's with prescription from the doctor. It's quite easy to get. In most countries, it's advised since 3 months before pregnancy until at least the first trimester. Okay, it's the minimum time that usually some countries have all pregnancy, but most have this at least until the first trimester. So here for minerals, you also have some differences in some minerals. One of them that you can see here, that it's a big number. It's iron. It's a big number. Also, see iodine that increased from 150 to 200. It's like an increase from not pregnant women or childbearing age women to pregnant women. Others, it's slightly differences. Here you see copper, a slight increase from 1.3 to 1.5. And here I can show you some sources of iodine. Iodine is also a nutrient that is hard to get in some specific places because the numbers, the concentrations, have a huge variation considering the source of the food, either vegetable or animal. So what I want to say, how this is explained? Iodine, if you have fish that are from a specific region that is rich in iodine in the soil of the ocean, you'll have way more iodine in that fish than is a fish that comes from a different place that doesn't have iodine. For instance, maybe you never heard about that place, but Cape Verde, there is an African archipelagus in the west side of Africa. They are islands in the middle of the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and they had some years ago, in 2010, they had huge deficits of iodine. And they ate a lot of fish and they added in the ocean. Why? Because that region there is really poor in iodine. So then they start fortifying the salt with iodine, have the fortified iodized salt, and they decreased a lot. Now they have like 9% of deficit with because it's mandatory. So they just sell salt with iodine everywhere. It's like because it's a cheap way to get iodine to people. So in different places they can try to figure it out in different ways. In Portugal, we are giving pills to women also. Yellow care, yellow fat are also prescribed by the doctor to make sure they don't have that. Or they should give. At least the guidelines say that. I got a lot of situations where they did talk to the doctor and convince him because they didn't really have any argument to not give just because I told them to give. Yes, that's why things evolve. Eggs also vary depending on what eats the chicken. Vegetables the same, depends on the ground. The ground can be more rich or less rich in iodine, so there is a huge variation between foods. And if you want to look for sources, you need to look for sources in your own country. Okay, so this is sources about Portuguese food. It doesn't apply for Polish food. You have somebody else for the country? Here? No, Polish and Portuguese, right? Okay, so if you want to know in Poland, you need to go to some food composition table in Poland and see the iodine levels for their fruits and vegetables and eggs, because the ones that are there are different from the ones we have here. Yeah. So these are other guidelines from Institute of Medicine that they are not so recent as EFSA. EFSA, they were updated in 2017 and 19. And these ones were updated last time in 2002 and 2006 and 2010. The ones from 2010, this 2006, but 2010 they changed these ones. Vitamin E and calcium that is in the next slide. So this one was updated, vitamin D, from 5 to 15. A lot difference. And 2010 is the only difference. So as you can see, they're not so different from the ones before. But there is some nutrients that we have more needs, like you increase as a mean, like you have here, for instance, vitamin C, 75 to 85, right? Yeah, 75 to 85, or vitamin B2 to 1.4, or here vitamin, no, B1 and B2 the same, yeah. for 1.1 to 1.4, for instance. Or here, also differences here on B12. No, the folates, you see, to 600, the same. There are some increases. For instance, vitamin C. It's a good example of a vitamin that if you make good food choices, it's easy for you to reach the levels. If you want to get at least 85 or 90 milligrams per day, is a lot of rich foods are here examples that you can get it easily. I would just like to point out that there is some variations in the concentrations of vitamin C that will depend on aspects like temperature that the foods are submitted, and as well, for instance, light exposure or oxidation, like oxygen exposure. For instance, if you make a juice, is a good example. You make a juice with orange. Orange is not here because this is the one with more. Orange will be like here with 50, around 50. To be after some other ones. With like it will be strawberries and oranges around 50 milligrams. And like you make an orange juice, and then it's contacting with the air. The light is or is outside the fridge, it's warm outside. It's decreasing progressively vitamin C with time. And even fruits or vegetables like papaya or kiwi, with time passing, they are changing a lot the levels. For this kiwi, I used to do that a lot in other school in Santarém when I used to work in the school technique. We were in the lab taking kiwis. We were taking like really green kiwis and then really mature kiwis in a good moment. And one that were those ones that are old, that are already like with wrinkled skin. And they were testing them in the lab with titulations to see the vitamin C levels in the lab and nutrition curves that they had there in food technology. And we were seeing that sometimes when you have those really wrinkled ones, they had 0 or almost like 2 milligrams, like virtually 0, when they were really old QB. And when they were green, they had way less than when they had like the ideal moment for you to eat them. So with fruits, you should eat them in a very better moment. And it's interesting something that we also tested like biological ones and the ones that organic, like the organic fruits, or the ones that are like industrial production. And it was no difference whatsoever. It's interesting because sometimes it's, but it can be a chance. I don't know. It's not a study, it's just examples from the classes. And then we also did something else that we realized to make a difference. It was the time that they were collected since the time you eat them. So if you take something from the tree and you eat right away, in terms of vitamin C, usually higher levels than if you take them and you eat them like 3 weeks after. So that can make also.
And that improves the weather, like you said, if we have the orange
I think
fridge, it's.
I'm not so into that actually. I don't know so much, but what I think is the most logical is because vitamin C works like as an antioxidant and a stabilizer of compounds that are not so stable. So if you take a fruit from the tree, she starts like aging, and like vitamin C is used to kind of conserve it. Actually, if you look for a lot of foods that you have, like juices, they have their ascorbic acid as a way, also as a preservative. Ascorbic acid, there's vitamin C. Actually, here, I don't know how it. No, here says vitamin C. Here says ascorbic acid or vitamin C. What is that?
Three from the end. Three from the end.
Oh, the vitamin C. Okay, but the name of this one is ascorbic acid. So you see it sometimes on foods as a preservative. So that's why. That's my theory. Okay, so we'll get to postpartum. Sorry to be speeding up, but I'm willing to finish at 50, like I told you, we're going to start a little bit late. So during postpartum, in terms of energy, it works the same. You make the calculations for that woman, for her characteristics, and then you sum up a value that is for milk production, if she is breastfeeding and not breastfeeding, if she's producing milk, 500 kcals, and then you decrease, in this case, first semester after pregnancy, 170 kcals because of the normal energy that decreases with weight loss. Second semester after pregnancy, if she still breastfeeds, you increase 400 kcal from her needs. for milk production. So we are talking about like 900 milliliters of milk that you produce with this energy. So we are basically giving the woman the energy that she needs to produce the milk that she needs to produce. In terms of diet quality, it's really important to state that if she's breastfeeding, the milk composition is depending also on the diet of the mother. Some specific nutrients that she has in herself, and the diet doesn't influence much, but others, without they coming from the diet, they will not be in milk in the same concentration. For instance, calcium. If the woman do not eat calcium, she has means to go to her bones, or phosphorus also in the bones, or in the teeth. She can go there and kind of have systems, mechanisms with osteoclasts, PTH hormone. You have mechanisms to take that calcium from your bones and put it in the milk to give to your baby. But it will affect you. You will like weaken yourself, your teeth, your bones, if you don't eat enough calcium when you are breastfeeding because of that. Or even during pregnancy, the same. But other nutrients is not like that. Other nutrients, you really need to take them for them to be present in the milk, like vitamin B complex, like B1, B2, B3, B6. Vitamin C is not so much in milk, but the little amount that it is, where it came from food. No, you don't have storage. The only animals are rodents, like rats. Rats have vitamin C in their bodies, but most animals do not have them. So, in this postpartum, we realize that there is a problem with weight retain, right? So, one of the main things about diet and nutrition that is important to be aware after pregnancy is to the weight loss and how people lose weight. What is needed for somebody to lose weight? Yeah, energy deficit. That's what is needed, energy deficit, and how to lose weight if you still and have at the same time a proper diet, mostly if you are dieting. Because sometimes that's a hard part. Have less calories, if you eat less, just in general, you have less calories. But how about all the nutrients that I was showing you, all those numbers that you need? How do you
They say usually that when they breastfeed, they're getting very
when we breastfeed, you have protein, oxytocin, they will make you hungry. You are breastfeeding and you already feel that you are thirsty and hungry sometimes, not even finished. Just started. So I'm saying that based on what tell me my patients. And they say that a lot, like, oh, I just started breastfeeding and I already need to, I'm feeling already what I'll eat after. It's really common. So it's not easy sometimes to do it. So what we need to do, the energy deficit should be sufficiently small to do not hinder the nutritional intake. So we need to decrease the energy until we can without affecting all the nutrients that we need to be able to give to someone. And that's the tricky part. Because sometimes you'll not lose weight so fast as you wanted, or sometimes it cannot work because you are working with estimates, so you make calculations, and that calculation has some kind of standard, some deviation that from the exact number that you don't know what it is, so it can be failing. There is a adherence problem. Sometimes the person is not really following the diet, or is hungry and needs a little bit more. It's a lot of hard situations. So in terms of protein intake, as you can see, first 6 months after pregnancy, if you are breastfeeding, 19 grams plus. Why? Because 19 grams is the amount of protein that a woman needs to produce like 800 to 1 liter of milk. So that's why they need this amount of protein to be sure that they will have this. Because if a woman does not have protein in their diet, they will produce milk with the same protein. But where comes from that protein? Skeletal muscle, fatty masses, and musculoskeletal skeletal muscle. That is where you have most storage. Second, after 6 months, until you stop breastfeeding, 13 grams. Okay? 13 grams per day, guideline. In terms of other nutrients, as you can see here, it still have that increased need in the AJ. just to, because this is really important, DHA, for the formation of the nervous system of the baby, even the brain, the eyes, the retina, is formed with specific fatty acids like DHA. For instance, if you cannot breastfeed, or if you don't want to breastfeed and use formula, milk, formula, you will have in the end, if you look at ingredients, you always have the fish fat exactly to be sure that you are imitating the ideal milk you could give to that baby. So you'll have this DHA. And one thing that changes a lot is also water, because you need to produce like and up to 1 liter of milk. So you need to have more water to be sure that you are hydrating yourself. So if you compare a normal woman, woman that is not pregnant or breastfeeding, to a woman that is breastfeeding, 700 milliliters more of the guideline. So you produce like 800 milliliters, 900 milliliters, 1 liter. So it's almost all water for milk is just that difference in increase.
And from your experience, do they also feel thirstier? Or just hungry?
Yeah.
Because I've heard about the hungry part, not about the water.
Thirsty, yeah. Thirsty, yes. Also feel thirsty, which helps to achieve. But anyway, this is interesting. Even with that increase of thirst, you cannot sometimes get to what you need. So it's like you can even compare with exercise. Because if you just trust in if you are thirsty or not, you will not drink as much as you are losing. And here it works the same. If you are just trusting in thirst, you will not be able to drink all the water you are using to produce milk. So you are giving more than what happens. So you should always drink for.
Strategy.
This is the normal ones for the people, like have always a bottle. To another thing in hydration that is important to mention is that hydration should be in similar amounts during the day. In pregnant women, going back to pregnancy, not lactation, but pregnancy sometimes is hard because of the anatomical changes, and sometimes you need to give more in the beginning of the day and then less closer to go to sleep because of comfort of the woman during the night, not waking up so much time, etc. But in terms of hydration, it's really important to split equal amount or similar amounts during the day. And sometimes make a plan, like you have this bottle, you have until here, until lunchtime, then until you eat in the mid-afternoon, you eat this amount, drink this amount, have the water next to you where you are sitting or in your house, multiple waters in different parts of the house, this kind of if they don't like so much to drink water, you can mix like some cinnamon stick or some cucumber or some lemon or whatever, or orange, depending on the likes or dislikes of people, but the same kind of advice. So, vitamins for postpartum if you are breastfeeding. Vitamin A increases a lot because it's one of the main vitamins you will need in milk. And it passes almost to double from 700 to 1.3 thousand micrograms. Then also folic acid keeps high, as you can see, keeps higher than the normal, but a little bit lower. And there is another ones that have variations here. Vitamin C passes to 155, as you can see, because you need it also for the milk. It's some variations here. Cobalamin as well. Cobalamin is vitamin B12, is known as vitamin B12. Also increase a bit. And for minerals, also have differences, like copper keeps a little bit higher than it was before, zinc as well. For instance, potassium increases a little bit. You have here some changes. Internal medicine, we also see the same variations. Also here it's 15, the new guidelines of vitamin D is also 15. But as you can see, vitamin A is higher, is also increased vitamin C. The tendency are the same. Why? Because they base themselves on the same studies, the same evidence. This is just consensus based on the evidence that different institutions made. So it's good that they are similar. It will be completely different how they work. For minerals, the same. We have some increase in some minerals, like here copper, for instance, you see passed to 1.3 thousand from 1,000 micrograms. So let's talk now about some aspects that are important in terms of weight loss. One thing that we realize in terms of weight loss is that a lot of times women. Wait, I have here some question. I don't know if it's connected to the class. No. It's just somebody that need to leave and said goodbye. Okay. So as I was saying, when you gain weight during pregnancy, it's common that after you deliver, it will be the first time in your life that you actually will try to lose weight because you never really had weight problems, so you gain weight for the first time, and it's the first time you're trying to lose weight. And interestingly, who tried to lose weight before more times, when they try to lose weight, they have less chances to actually be able to lose weight, which is interesting. So people that are like the first time they're trying, it's more probable that they can achieve actually success than people that tried a lot. It's interesting this aspect. So it's a lot of studies showing that. So previous dieting attempt is something important. When you have somebody that, oh, I really trying to lose weight all my life, now I gain more weight when I got pregnant, but I'm always trying to lose. It's a hard person to work with, and you need to really try to go deep in what she did before, what worked better. It's really not easy. That's just like some diet that never worked. This will be really a personalized approach of X you can to be sure that it can have more chance to work. So then another things that are important, of course, for you to achieve the energetic balance, protein increase is an aspect that can help in weight management, also postpartum. So even though we have the guidelines of protein, like we said before, doesn't it's not like a limit that we know there is a limit. So up to those 2 grams per kilo that I was saying, it's pretty okay, even eventually more. So sometimes like values like 1.6, 1.4, there are studies that shows that there is more satiety, less hunger. It helps to keep your bodily mass while you are losing weight. So if you want to try a little bit more protein to help the person to lose weight, can be a good approach in this moment. Fiber, dietary fiber, is also an aspect that in most studies, this is based on a review that I published some time ago, is in Portuguese. So just the abstract is in English because it was for the Portuguese nutritionists, the Portuguese journal. But here's like the highlights. So this is the dietary fiber shows good, like 30 grams per day, 40 grams per day is a good amount that reduces also hunger, increase satiety. If you split it through the day, it's also an important nutrient. And then you can decrease a little bit the fat intake and sugar intake within the guidelines. So not lowering so much that you will go lower the guidelines, of course, but at least compensate a little bit the protein intake with decreasing in fat or sugar. And then these other variables that we don't talk so much sometimes, but they're really important. For instance, self-monitoring. Self-monitoring of the intake, self-monitoring of physical activity, self-monitoring of weight. Self-monitoring is just to check yourself with time. So we can check your weight. You can just go on a scale and look once a week. You are monitoring your weight. Or you can like somehow write down what you are eating, making some food diary or use some app where you write down what you're eating. Or you can have some device that tracks the steps you are having per day or monitoring like your runnings or cycling or whatever. So it's interesting because most studies shows that who is self-monitoring these aspects have way better results than who doesn't do it. And it's something so easy. Sometimes you just need to look how that person would like, what they can do about that. Not be, I would advise you to not be yourself like being bossy and say, no, now you need to do this and this and this. Just ask, so you see yourself doing this, you would like to do this, and the person will tell you, yeah, actually I have the scale, I just sometimes, yeah, I can go on the scale, it's something I like. Because it kind of gives you conscientize you, like give you conscience of what's going on. Sometimes people they think they are following some specific diet, but if they write down what they're eating, they will realize they are not. And if you check their weight, you will, if you increase a little bit, you say, oh, you're increasing. So what's going on? Like something, oh, what I'm doing, like it gives you like remembers you from what you are doing. So that's probably why it works. Then self-efficacy. I don't know if you are aware of this term, self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a construct that comes from Albert Bandura that basically means how much do you perceive or believe that you can achieve something. Imagine this. I will make now a test. I'll get here, I have here some tests, and I will give you this about this class. I need to answer the questions about this class. And some of you are more confident that you're paying attention and you understood and you know about this, and you have good self-efficacy about passing this test. And some will be, oh, no, I was thinking about something else. I didn't understand the word he said. It speaks too fast. He's asking me horrible. I don't understand anything he says. So you'll be scared. You'll be with low self-efficacy to pass in this test. To lose weight, it works the same, or to follow a diet works the same, or to make some exercises or exercise plan, it works the same. You will be more or less kind of confident that you will succeed or not doing that. And that's a really important predictor of success on losing weight. So if you have a woman in postpartum, you give her a diet or an exercise plan, if she doesn't feel that she actually can perform it, it will not work for sure. So you need to be sure that she will feel that confidence, that she will have that self-efficacy to make. I'll give you an example, really simple one. After my appointments, I always ask the person if you make some kind of personalized food plan. So you think you can follow this plan, like you are going to follow this plan? And sometimes people tell me, let's see, I will try. If somebody tell me this, I cannot leave her, let her go. Wait, so just make this together. You are saying, why you say maybe you'll try? What keeps you from do not do it? What are the barriers that do not let you, that you think will avoid you from keep you from following the plan? And then from there you go, oh, because my husband he doesn't like so much this food we cook for dinner and dinner we eat together. So we need to find another option. My job is not to say, no, you do that. And your husband needs to get used to that. No, my job is the opposite, is to make it in a way that she will be able to follow it and she will have confidence that she will be able to follow it. Otherwise, I will have low eating self-efficacy, so she doesn't believe she can follow the plan because she knows problems show up and it will keep her from doing what we need her to do to succeed. With exercise, for sure, it happens the same. It's also a predictor. For sure, you can give me examples because you work in that field, right? Can you give me an example that you felt sometimes?
Oh, we are.
How are you? Okay, she's a therapist. So
But it's the same thing. They
Yeah.
just have to.
you sometimes make a plan to rehabilitation or recovery of somebody, right? You make an exercise plan, and you also feel sometimes some people have more or less self-efficacy. Can you give me an example that you remember?
It's quite about the same set. I think we gave a plan and they were like, yeah, maybe I don't not very into this one, or yes, that one makes me too tired, or not very comfortable performing the other one. Well, it's exactly the same thing. You just need to find options for better.
Yeah, for sure. And you also can think about something else that I think is interesting. It's one variable that is really connected to this self-efficacy. Doesn't matter where, if it's weight, self-efficacy, weight management, or exercise or eating. It's perception of competence. So sometimes you can be giving some diet to someone or some exercise to someone, but she doesn't feel competent to do it because she doesn't know how. Imagine you tell me, oh, Rui, you need, sorry, I'm saying Rui is my name. I know that it sounds weird if I say my name, but it's how it's said. So you say, Rui, you need to do some specific exercises. Need to make burpees. And I don't know how to make burpees. I never heard burpee. What is burpee? Oh, it's like this. So then, I don't know how to do it properly. So how I will do it? Like sometimes the diet is the same. I will tell you, you will eat quinoa. The person never bulgur. The person never heard about that. Doesn't know how to cook it. Doesn't know what it is. Where to buy it. So the competence, she doesn't feel competent, so self-efficacy will lower right away. If you don't know how to write Portuguese, and I'll give you now a test about this class in Portuguese, you'll feel self-efficacy to make it well. No, they will. They would. Because they know the language, they feel confident for that. But you will not. But if I say, teraz jest po polsku, they will not feel competent. But you would. So, how we can also increase self-efficacy? There is some ways. One easy thing is to determine goals, and evaluate them together. If you determine goals together with the person during the appointment or the session, it will increase the probability that they will have more self-efficacy, to increase self-efficacy. And it's something really easy to do. Other thing is to focus on process and not results. So, if you focus on process, I'll give you examples about exercise, physiotherapy. You want somebody that needs to make some specific angle with some flexion or extension, I don't know. And you say, so next time when you come here, next week or in 2 weeks, you need to be able to make 45 degrees already. That's the result. The person cannot control if she will be able to make 45 or not, because now she just makes until here. 45 or 90, or doesn't matter. So, but if you say, the objective is for you to make 3 times per week, 20 repetitions of this exercise. He can control, she can control that. Is a part of the process. They'll make 20 times that. Doesn't matter if they'll reach 45% angle or degrees or whatever. The same with exercise or the same with nutrition. Once I cannot say like, okay, next time we'll be here with less 3 kilos. That's horrible. How the person knows if she will have less than 3 kilos or not? Doesn't depend on the person doesn't. It's not the behavior to lose 3 kilos. It's a consequence of behavior. So I can tell her, so you eat this amount of times, or you have this amount of food, or you follow these meals that we made together, plan together. That is process oriented, and it increases self-efficacy because it depends on the person. It's not something that doesn't depend on them. Other thing that increases self-efficacy is promoting, suggesting, and teaching how to self-monitor. Because self-monitoring increases self-efficacy. Because if you're self-monitoring, you realize what you are doing, how you feel about doing, and it increases self-efficacy. So, here you need to think about the best way to her and not to us about monitoring, because that's a big mistake. For instance, I am a nutritionist, and it's really easy because I can work with some software and I can give a file to that person, a link to my software, and the person writes there to diary. Then I click just in my mouse like one time and shows up all the nutrients the person ate. Calculate. And I had 0 work in 1 second, I had my work done. If the person makes it by hand in some diary, I need to write everything in the software and lose 30 minutes of my life, and I'm paid the same. So I could fall in the mistake of making everyone use that link instead of time. But sometimes some people say, oh no, I like to write. I have always my bag, I have beer, my agenda, I like everything there. And they even have pleasure on that. They even put like in pink or in orange, and they put in different days, and they have pleasure. It's not a hobby for them. It's not like hard. But go to a link that doesn't even like use a computer, or it's like sacrifice there. Oh, I need to write down. Of course it will not work. And it will not increase self-efficacy like that. So self-monitoring is to be in a comfortable way. Weighing, for instance, the person weighing themselves. Some people like to weigh themselves every day. Some people like to weigh themselves once a week. Some people, just to think about going on a scale, they are stressed, and it's not a good idea to go on a scale. So we need to have this flexibility and this flexibility approach, personalized approach, to be able to increase self-efficacy. And finally, stress management or stress levels are a really important aspect that affects the self-efficacy. If you were stressed now, and you need to perform that test that will be for on this subject that I have there in my bag, my case, you'll be stressed. And if you're stressed, you'll be less confident to be able to do it right. If you're less stressed, more calm, you can be more confident, and there's more chance for you to do it right. How many times happened to you that you were so stressed that you do something wrong because of that? Sometimes it happens. So we can be part of the problem or part of the solution here. I can be the personal trainer, or I can be the physiotherapist, or the exercise technician, or exercise physiologist, that or nutritionist. That I'm that one that will stress the person, make her feel that next time I will scream at her if she's not doing what I said, or if she gains weight, I'll be aggressive, or I'll make her feel bad. And that's kind of stress. Or the one that makes her go to different supermarkets to buy the quinoa and whatever, and make her life hard. Or be the one that actually she feels is something that is going to help to make things easier and to decrease stress levels and increase self-efficacy in the end. Yeah? I'm passing the message? So, in the field of pregnancy, systematic reviews also shows that interventions that includes diet and physical activity alongside with individualized support and self-monitoring are more likely to be successful in promoting postpartum weight loss. This systematic review made just on pregnant women, not general population. Because of course there is high levels of nutrition, people, it's hard to lose weight, it's hard to follow diets, exercise plans, things don't go well all the time. So we need to consider also that these interventions are targeting sometimes like new mothers. It's the first time in their life they are experiencing a whole new world with a creature that they need to take care of. Sometimes they really few support. They have a lot of things to worry about. They don't need more problems that are like specific diets, specific exercise plan that is really hard to perform, that they need to dedicate a lot of their will to be able to do it. It will never work. So we need to identify and decide the methods that are supporting this weight loss really carefully and really personalized and individualized way. So not to end. We talk about a lot of things, but how can we comply with all these nutritional recommendations without a tailored food plan? How, without a diet that is personalized, calculated with all those numbers, we can somehow be able to give the person, the pregnant woman or the postpartum woman, the diet she needs without personalized diet? What do you think? Or needs to be is the only way to personalize that. The food guides can be the wheel that only have, but can be others. Okay, so we can, of course, and it would be ideal if we could have a tailored food plan for everyone, but sometimes for human resources or it's not possible. So there are general guidelines and food guides that can tell us like some common ground that will take you to a good diet. For instance, whole and unprocessed foods and beverages, rich in fruits and vegetables, whole grains and complex carbohydrates, healthy fats like nuts, seeds, olive oil, healthy fish, plant-based protein, drink plenty of water, lean meats and lean dairy products. It's some common rules that if you have it, you'll be closer to have a better nutrition during pregnancy and postpartum. For instance, what can be considered also a good diet that we considered in a book that we wrote some time ago? Mediterranean diet. In Poland, it's not so common, like in Portugal or Spain or France or Italy or Turkey. It's kind of easy to get this kind of diet. And there's a lot of studies that shows that in pregnant women, in postpartum, for instance, it gets really good results in terms of nutrition and also weight management. Mediterranean diet is a diet that has mostly balance in terms of foods that mainly are vegetables and fruits. Mainly protein is come from fish. Also can include fermented dairy products like yogurts or cheese. Includes legumes like beans, chickpeas, etc. Whole cereals, also like oats, like even some traditional foods from different countries. Like in Portugal, in terms of fruits, if you grab a car and make a road trip in Portugal, you will find a lot of granate, pomegranate. You'll find a lot of figs. You find a lot of pomerange, yeah. Oranges, like watermelon, melon, a lot of. It's really common. It's like traditional vegetables, peppers, onions, garlic. A lot. It's really common. It's typical from here, and they are rich in nutrients. They grew up here in our land naturally. In Portugal, for example, you have oranges, you have apples.
So much vegetables.
No,
In Portugal,
yeah, we had this
we
conversation
don't
yesterday.
we don't need.
Because we are
Yeah.
so much vegetables and when.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been eating for like a lot of months of my life.
Yeah.
If I understand a little bit, I have 11. So, what, 6 months to be altogether. But to say that in Poland, in normal like restaurants or whatever, people eat way more vegetables than in Portugal, that's for sure. But this is like the traditional diet and the food that we have, and this is a guideline. This is not what we eat, it's the guideline.
No, we had this conversation for lunch.
Yeah. Usually, if you go to a restaurant in Portugal, I make fun of this all the time. You ask for a salad, and they bring you a small plate,
Yeah.
one slice of tomato, and one leaf of lettuce. Like they call it salata, right? But in the end, it's like a salatka. Salatka, and in the end, it's just one slice of tomato and one leaf of lettuce. So it's nothing. So healthy diet is defined as fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, seeds, nuts, lower in animal-based food products, rich in fatty and avoiding processed and fatty meats. This is a healthy diet. And like the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, in the last guidelines for nutrition in pregnancy, they say the message should be eat better, not more. And it can be achieved eating a variety of nutrient-dense whole foods, including fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, fish, and avoid high processed foods. If you have this message, if you even have now My Pregnancy Plate, it's a food guide that was made from the Oregon University specific for pregnancy, for pregnant women. And you'll see the base is exactly the same, even though it's an American food guide. The idea is the same. And all of them, they get you to the same principles. If you have a diet that is rich in these quality foods, you'll be really close to have all the amounts of nutrients that we were talking about before. But look here. If you make like this, like 3/4 of what you eat, so you should eat, half of what you eat should be fruits and vegetables. Half. And then 1/4 should be like quality carb-rich foods, right? So it's hard for most Occidental, we call it Occidental lifestyle, like with the diets to have restaurants or fast food or American diet. It's almost impossible to have this if you don't cook, if you don't lose time with that, or waste time, to invest time, like what to say. It's really hard. So just to end, just give you here like 2 references that have some information about nutrition as well. Here you have 2 chapters about nutrition that for sure have this book for Professor Rita Santos Rocha was the one, the editor of the book, and we have 2 chapters about nutrition there. Here also have a small chapter about nutrition that you can read in English. They are also available, these 2 books, the resources of the BIP, I think. And thank you very much for your attention. Sorry to be so fast, but I'm already late a little bit. And any question, send me an email. I always answer. Yeah.
Question. What time food or stop if milk kids or what is it for women?
Sorry. Goodbye to people at home.
Goodbye.